Once you change your mind about a pre-tribulation rapture, your first question is probably, well, when does the rapture happen? Well, this is where it gets hairy because there's at least 3 different post-tribulational positions that all disagree with each other. I'm going to try to give you a basic overview and I'll tell you where I lean, but I have to say I find compelling evidence for all 3 of the positions. And I can definitely make separate videos on each one. So let's start at some of the points that most people agree on. The final 7-year period will begin when the Antichrist signs some kind of covenant or peace treaty with Israel for 7 years. Most people see the first seal as the Antichrist because he's riding on a white horse with a bow that doesn't have arrows and it talks about how he conquers. But that doesn't mean the first 3.5 years will be all fun and games because as you can see with the seals, wars break out, there's famine, there's death, and it's still not a picnic. Now, the crucial thing to understand for all of these positions is that the first 3.5 years do not consist of the wrath of God. It consists of what some would call the beginning of sorrows or the birth pains. The actual Great Tribulation gets started at the midpoint of the 7 years. That's what we call the Abomination of Desolation, and that's where the Antichrist sits in a rebuilt temple and declares that he's God. But note, the wrath of God still hasn't happened. After that point in the Great Tribulation, there's going to be excessive martyrdom of Christians because they're not going to accept the mark of the beast and they're not going to worship the Antichrist. So at the 5th seal, which is believed to be after the midpoint of the final 7 years, we see martyrs crying out under the altar and asking when God is going to pour out his judgment on the nations for their death. Then in the 6th seal, we see that happening. Basically, the sun, moon, and stars are darkened. The men, kings, and generals of the earth hide under rocks and say, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of the Lamb, because the day of his wrath has come." And then we see the sealing of the 144,000, and no wrath is able to be poured out until the 144,000 are sealed. After that point, we see a multitude in heaven, clothed in white, and this is what the pre-wrath position sees as the rapture. They believe the rapture happens at the 6th seal before the trumpets and the bowls. However, not everybody agrees with that. A large chunk of Christians believe that the rapture actually happens at the 7th trumpet. So that'll be the 2nd rapture position. But some say, nope, it's not the seals, it's not the trumpets, not even the bowls. They say that the rapture of the church doesn't happen until the very tail end at Armageddon. And they believe that that happens when you see Jesus riding on the white horse with multitudes behind him. So to recap the 3 rapture positions that are post-trib, we have number 1, the 6th seal, number 2, the 7th trumpet, or number 3, the tail end at Armageddon. Let me know what questions